I guess. All right. Is everybody ready to rock and roll today?
Yes.
Welcome to our work crisis task force meeting for June. We're going to in a moment. We do ask that all the task force members, to the extent possible, turn their cameras on to make for better engagement. At this point, everyone knows about the mute button, so being thoughtful of each other as we do our presentations and sharing is helpful. We will be monitoring the chat box, so please feel free to put any comments or references that you want to put in there. We always, whoever's speaking, always appreciate some verbal cues from the group, nodding along, thumbs up, thumbs down, shaking your head, but to help folks know where to dig deeper or where to go further with things. The closed captioning is available on the Teams tool. If you go up to the toolbar, you see 3 buttons. If you click on that, there's an option to turn on live captions. Our presenters will be judicious in using shared screens so that we can all see each other to the greatest extent possible. I want to remind you that all our documents are on the website and that the meeting is being recorded. And as a public meeting, we welcome to observe. Only members participate in the actual meeting, but we welcome you and we're glad that you're here. So I'm going to go ahead and do the roll call real quick. And as you all know, it's in alphabetical order. That helps you get prepared to Jason Abadili. Jason here. Vic Gable. There he is. Kim House.
Good morning, or I guess it's afternoon, shoot.
Kristen Henry.
Hello, everyone.
Deborah Hoffine.
Hello, everybody.
Debbie Jenkins. Debbie here. Okay. Willie Jones.
Good afternoon.
Kim Kelly.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Kim. Teresa Cobelt let me know that she wasn't going to be able to make it today. Pete Moore. Janet Stefan. Bethany Toledo.
Hi, good afternoon.
Gary Tong.
Hello.
Nate Turner.
Present.
Jason Umstadt.
I'm present.
Renee Wood.
Hi.
Hi, Renee. So welcome. We may still have a few people on, the folks if they are popping in a few minutes late to welcome them. So our agenda for the day, we have a series of updates that we want to walk through. Our director is going to kick us off. Then we have a workforce and technology data report presentation and discussion. Then updates on the administration PSA campaign, public service campaign that we talked a little bit about last time. The rate consultant request for proposal, the direct support professional request for proposal, and then some general updates that I know Steve and Clay each have some items can jump in as well. So let me turn the meeting over to Kim.
Thanks, Jackie. Steve, are you able to switch Debbie Jenkins over as well?
I'm working on it, but I can't do it on a phone number. So Debbie, if you're listening, if you can try *6, that might unmute you, but because it's a phone number that's calling in, I can't change the role of it.
Or call back in and we'll put you in the right spot. So
can you hear me now?
Oh yeah.
Hi. Okay, sorry. I have no idea what's going on. I'm clicking on the meeting notice link and it will only take me to the chat. It's not bringing me into the video conference. So I called in on my phone, but thank you for unmuting me.
Sure, welcome. All right. So if other people are having issues, just put something in the chat or give a holler and we'll get you figured out. But welcome this afternoon. Thanks everybody for being here. Looking forward to the agenda and hopefully some of your updates at the end of the meeting. And I'll just, Jackie, let you go ahead and get started.
Okay, thank you. So the first presentation today is from Nicholas Miller and Stacy Collins, and they're going to talk to us about the Workforce Technology Data Report.
Awesome. Thanks, Jackie. All right, let me try to share my screen quickly. All right, I should be good, but can somebody just tell me? Oh, sorry. All right, perfect. All right, so I don't think that we're going to talk for the whole 20 minutes. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask or interrupt, throw it in the chat if you want. But really, the purpose of us trying to do this, I think, was to try to establish, try to really connect, technology and the workforce crisis that we're in. And so, thankfully, we had a bunch of people working on it, including Stacy and her team. So I think that this is a really good kind of first, right? This is a draft. I'd like to remind everybody of that. But so again, our goal really was just to try to figure out how we can connect, technology and taking a look at that being a solution for the workforce. So I'm not going to read through everything. I'm really just going to kind of talk about some of the things in each of the sections. The first kind of section, right? That workforce crisis, I think pretty self-explanatory. Just kind of introducing the situation that we as a system are in, and that we know that there's some work that we have to do. And so with the DSP recruitment and retention, we got most of that data from our the survey that we did, I think last year, right? So just a couple of things. I know that there are some people on this call or that have been on this call that aren't fans of the turnover as an indicator of kind of where we're at. So we tried to throw in a couple of different data points there. So we talked about the vacancy rate. We talked about that 33% of DSPs have been employed for less than a year. But then I think the really important data point that shows kind of where we're at is that 58% of all DSPs that have left in this last year have left, within being employed for a year, right? And so I think that sometimes gets lost when we talk about a 27% vacancy rate, right? Yeah, but that 27%, is turning over maybe a couple of times in that year. So again, just trying to kind of establish where we're at, right? Establish that this is a problem, and that we have been doing some things, but we still have some work to do. Again, feel free to interrupt me if anybody has any questions. All right. So this next section, looking towards the future, with this, what we were trying to do was really establish kind of, yep, we're in a bad situation now, but what's kind of coming in, through the pipeline. And so utilizing kind of the data that we get from, our waiting list assessment, you really can see that we've called it a wave before, that really big wave of people that are going to be needing services in the not too distant future. And so, as you can see, the majority of people that have a current need are under the age of 30. And so as that group continues to age, we're gonna be needing to provide more services to more people. And so it's not just about getting back to where we were 4 years ago when we called the emergency a crisis, or crisis the emergency. I can't remember which one came first, but it's about getting us to be able to provide the services that we need to support this new kind of generation of people. And so again, this section really is talking about just kind of setting the stage. Hey, it's not going to get any easier in terms of the amount of services that we need to provide. All right. So this next section, as you can see with the first graph, kind of what our goal is. Hey, Vic, yes, we are definitely going to share the draft at the end of the meeting or when we send out the meeting notes. So we'll be sure to get that to you. So what we wanted to do here was really kind of take a close look at the comparisons between the amount of people that we support in utilizing technology versus the other services. And so as you can see, only about 3% of all of the people that are on waivers utilize remote supports, and about 8% assistive technology. And so we've got a really big gap, right? And when we talk about really ramping it up, right? I mean, we're not talking about getting rid of, we're not talking about getting 25,000 people to utilize it, right? But there's a big gap where we can make a really big difference and not have it be everybody, right? And so we just wanted to kind of establish, hey, we're here, right? We've got a really far kind of walkway here, right? We can make some really good progress and have it, not be technology for all. So that's kind of where we're at. The only other piece of data that I wanted to touch on here is just that, of the 1,300 people that utilize remote supports, we have like 250 that have some sort of restrictive measure in their plan. Yes, I can definitely make it bigger. Hopefully that works better for everybody. Sorry, I probably should have asked that at the beginning. Just looking at a bunch of blurry dots. Where was it? Yeah. So what we wanted to hit on with this was just that a lot of people, I think, technology definitely is going to work for the people in my caseload or for the people that I support or for, my son or daughter or myself. So just kind of stating the fact, hey, there are people that have, restrictive measures in their plan, right, in their services that are able to utilize technology in a safe and responsible way. So that was kind of the 2 points of this section. And then again, just talking, we know that increasing remote supports isn't gonna solve our problem, but it definitely can be a key step in kind of alleviating the crisis, right? This emergency. And so again, this is kind of our I'm going to pass it off to Stacy in a second, but just trying to set the stage. I think we thought for a while that our most kind of precious commodity in our system was dollar amounts, right? That we can pay DSPs, right? We need more money so that we can pay DSPs. I think that we may need to start thinking about our most precious commodity being DSP hours that we have, right? Because I don't think that I think it's going to be very difficult to get significantly more people in our system that are going to be DSPs. And so we need to start thinking about how do we utilize those hours correctly, and responsibly. So I'm going to pass it on over to Stacy, unless anybody has any questions for me. And she's going to kind of talk about our goals as a department that are going to be coming from this. So Stacy.
Nick, thank you so much. It's good to see everybody this afternoon. Thanks for having Nick and I to talk about this report, as well as to be able to do this for you. And as Nick said, the goal of this work is to really show you the connection between technology first and our workforce crisis in Ohio. As you all know, Technology First was an initiative created to promote the use of remote supports across Ohio and technology, as well as assistive technology. And looking at the data, we hope that you see in the report that we're talking through with you today, that we'll also send to you, you can see how technology can be one of the options to help reduce the strain of the DSP workforce crisis in Ohio, and really help set and create a new path for Ohioans with developmental disabilities that includes technology. So Nick, thanks for going over the data and the different sections of data in this report, kind of about the why and why Technology First is important. And so the part of this paper kind of report that I'll be going over with you is just really our commitment at the department around technology first and what that initiative is, targeting to do. One, right, ensure people with developmental disabilities have those increased opportunities to live, learn, work, and thrive in their homes and their communities, and that we do so through planning, that we're doing that through innovative technology, and that we're really focusing on people and their interests and their skills and their talents. So that's a key part of the initiative. But the second part of that initiative is how are we taking those key steps and reducing the strain of the DSP workforce emergency and really start on that path paved by technology. The report goes into a little bit of history about our efforts at the Department of Developmental Disabilities with many of you around increasing the use of technology across the state. And then it gives you some data that talks through, like, amidst all the efforts that we've taken together since 2012, there still is a large number of people who are not using assistive technology or remote supports that we think could benefit from those technologies. This gives you the data so that you can see the number. Many of you know we are supporting over 95,000 people with developmental disabilities in our statewide system. 41,000 are enrolled in a Medicaid waiver, 5,000 in intermediate care facilities, but our numbers of utilization are lower. And so within that initiative, we do have 6 key priorities that are outlined for you in the report. These are priorities that we've been working on over the last couple years and will continue to work on. But in the report, the biggest thing I want to highlight for you is 3 benchmarks and indicators we would like to start monitoring regarding the use of technology across Ohio. Several meetings ago, we had the opportunity to come, several meetings ago, to talk about kind of our first attempt at some indicators towards technology and remote supports and assistive tech. Since we met with you last, we did work on this data report. We looked at that data and we are changing those indicators based off of that feedback. And so we have 3 benchmarks that we are going to have as our key indicators for on how we're taking and making progress in Ohio regarding the use of assistive technology and remote supports and reducing the strain of the DSP workforce crisis by using technology. So the first indicator in the report is that the remote support service will increase by 10% by June 30th of 2023. The report lays out for you where we are currently in that goal. So as of May 15th of this year, we had 1,357 people who had received the actual remote support service. In order to meet the 10% goal by June 30th of 2023, we need to be at 1,493 people using the remote supports service by June 30th of 2023. So I wanted to show you that indicator and show you the graphic that goes along with that. The second indicator, and we used some baseline data to try to figure out what was the best number to use here. But indicator 2 is that we would have 15% of people who use residential supports will actually be using remote supports by 2026. And so as of right now, so as of May 15th of this year, there was 1,357 people, right, utilizing remote supports out of 38,519 people using a collective kind of gathering of residential services on the Medicaid waiver. And so currently, like Nick mentioned earlier in the report, we have just over 3%, so 3.5% of people, when you look at that residential bucket, who are using remote supports, and we would like to raise that number to 15%. So with the current growth of our residential services, we do estimate we would need close to about 5,975 people using remote supports to meet that 15% goal by 2026. That number is going to fluctuate just by the actual number of people we have in residential services. So just know as we go to continue to communicate with you, kind of that bottom number, our denominator of who's actually in that residential services bucket may move, grow and change over time. And so it will change the actual number, but our percent goal is 15%. And this visual is a visual related to indicator 2 that we wanted to show you. Our goal is that we continue to use the same visuals so that you know how we're making progress with our actual indicators as we communicate to you guys on that work. And then indicator 3 is more related to not just residential services, but looking at the whole home and community-based services waiver system and having 25% of people who utilize home and community-based waiver services to use technology or virtual supports by 2026. So this does bring in more than just residential services. It does bring in virtual supports that are happening in employment, virtual supports that may be happening in day services. And so right now, it does bring in assistive tech to this goal as well, and it's the assistive technology service. So our current target, that May 15th date, we were at 7,255. And so we're currently at 19% of our 25% goal. And this gives you kind of what we have in regards to estimates of numbers of people. So these are the 3 indicators. When we looked at the data we had available, got feedback from you guys, the indicators we are going to start monitoring related to the Technology First initiative and our progress towards paving that path to using technology for Ohioans with developmental disabilities. And appreciate having the chance to review this with you today. And yes, it's questions. So I'll look at the chat, and Debbie, I know you have your hand up, so
And
feel free. Go ahead.
You
Go
do,
ahead,
but
Debbie.
you have a question from Renee in the chat. She said, do you have a guesstimate of what percentage of people could use remote support?
So our actual estimate of how many people we thought who could use it is based off of that indicator number 2 and that number of 15% of people. We'd like to get to that mark. In regards to, do I have data that can tell us how many of, the 46,000 people we're supporting could actually use it? I don't have any data that, tells us that. We have been watching what LAD has been doing in one of our grant projects, just to share this information. And right now they are sharing data with us that out of the people that they support, they estimate 40% of people would benefit from technology, but that's not 40% remote supports only. But I do not, it's a great question, Renee. I don't have any data right now to collect that answer to make a statewide estimate. And then I don't know who was first, Jackie, if it was Debbie, if it was Kim Kelly.
I believe it was Debbie, but I wouldn't swear to that. So we'll just go there.
Okay.
We'll make sure everyone gets in.
Stacy, my question is, how are you guys getting this data? Is this only being done through claims data, or do you have another mechanism to be able to capture this data?
So for these 3 indicators, we do have basically a metrics or logic behind the scenes. It is based off of home and community-based waiver data, and utilization or claims is where it's coming from. With these indicators, we did not want to put a new data collection process in place, and so we did come up with indicators with the data that we do have.
So I would just say just a couple concerns with that. One, I think we need to, because our workforce issue is in all of our services, that we really need to be not just looking at home and community-based services and seeing how technology can be utilized in ICFs also. We know that it's different. It's not the same as on a waiver because of the restrictions in the ICF. But also, I don't necessarily know that claims data is really going to give you a good indication of who's utilizing technology, because those technology purchases may be made outside of claims, or they may be made in one year and not necessarily every single year. So you wouldn't have the same claims if somebody got assistive technology maybe in year 1 and they didn't need that replaced until 3 or 5 years later. It doesn't necessarily mean they're not utilizing that technology. They just didn't have a claim for it. So just a couple of feedback items. If there's any ways you can find, a better source of data. I understand, completely agree with it's hard to be able to ask for people to put more information in. I just want to make sure that as we're presenting this information, or if we're setting these goals, that we are very clear that the goals are limited based on the data that's available, and it doesn't necessarily it doesn't represent truly who all may be utilizing technology in our system.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the feedback, Debbie. And we did take all of that into consideration, and we'll continue to take that into consideration. And just for those who aren't using a waiver service to access technology, or those who are in an ICF using technology, I am completely, and hopefully this is okay, open to having a conversation of how do we, from a statewide perspective, what information is out there, what information could we get, so that we do have the ability to have indicators that are across the system. Happy to have that conversation if there's thoughts or ideas on, what's possible. Does something exist today that we can join into, or is there a willingness to have a conversation about future, data collection and how to get to a more collective across the state vision and of what's happening for people. So no, completely open to that conversation.
Nate had a question or a point.
Go ahead, Nate.
I do. I'm curious because I'm hearing a lot from SSAs that they don't know where to start with technology and how to address it, on their caseloads, and how it helps to support the people in our system. And I'm wondering if there is or are any strategies that the CLE team has discussed to try and make sure that SSAs have the capacity and just the knowledge to be able to start those types of conversations. I think we all know that tablets are helpful and that digital assistants are helpful, but I think there's a huge gap from there considering what other technologies might be available. And I'm just thinking about strategies that we might be able to help build some capacity there. You've got a lot of grantees that might be able to help. I think the tech ambassadors could play a role. I think some subject matter experts could play a role. I'd love to have them produce some content on Loop Ohio or wherever it is SSAs go. I think part of the problem is there's a lot of content everywhere with people's stories, but it's not in one centrally located place. And I'm hoping that some of that, in addition to SSAs coming together and talking about shared experiences with technology, could help move the needle. And of course, I always think that it should come from the bottom up and from the person, of course, and be person-centered. But I know that a lot of families have the most interaction with our system through the SSA. And I want to make sure that SSAs have all the supports they need and county boards have all the supports they need to really support Tech First.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nate. We feel the same way. I'm glad you brought up the Ohio Tech Ambassadors, because that is one of the hopes, is that they are able to build those relationships and help with those conversations. We do have multiple things that in ways an SSA could get support in having these conversations and knowing where to start. And so we can continue to, put that message out there and make sure that county boards and SSAs have the information and partner with our different grantees to do it, just like you said, because we do have, the shift training that's available for free that does target and SSAs, and knowing where to start and how to engage those conversations. We just released last week the supportive technology My Learning course to really talk about what does it all mean and how do you start having these conversations. We talked about the tech ambassadors and their ability for consultation and being available for talking with people. And I think a big piece I just want to throw out there and remind people about is not always, SSAs don't always have to know what is the right technology, right, to use or have all the answers. But, the rapid response application is there to help be that gateway of conversation for the SSA. And so if they're working with somebody, they've identified needs and they want to explore, the person wants to explore what's possible with technology, they can put a request in the rapid response system and it sends that request for consultation to those remote supports and assistive technology vendors so that they basically know quickly I need to reach out and I can show the possibilities of technology, and it may be technology that somebody does not want at all. But that was an attempt to accelerate that conversation and try to reduce the weight a little bit on the SSAs that, they had to know all of what's possible. And so that's there, I think, too, as a tool, and it will be there soon for ICFs and our DCs and the queues, and using that as well to kind of help in that conversation, exploring what's possible. But
And
Nate,
I
you're right
think,
on, and we'll
I'm
continue
sorry,
to use that. No, go ahead.
in terms of people living with a disability, and well, just everybody in general, I think we learn from experiences, and I'm wondering if, maybe as part of the broader strategy, the department and the county boards can do more to maybe work with community partners and develop sort of mobile smart homes or mobile tech experiences where people might be able to go and try technologies in a safe environment, and learn. And I think that's something worth pursuing or trying to figure out.
Thank you, Nate.
Renee had a question.
Yeah, I was thinking about the 15%. I'm wondering if that's a low estimate, considering the fact that technology is growing by leaps and bounds, and by 2026, it's going to look a lot different than today. And also, the younger people that are coming up, they have a greater propensity of how technology actually works. I mean, they are already using cell phones and all kinds of stuff that we don't even know about, because they're just using it on their own. So are we kind of, I guess my real question is, if we find out it's going to go up to 30%, do we have the money to support that? That's my real question. Is that 50% based on monetary things, or if we see it growing rapidly, can we support that?
So I feel like we absolutely see it growing beyond 15%, but wanted to set a realistic goal based off of what we where we were as a state, but also kind of push us a little bit. And so we were, just so that you guys know, kind of going back and forth. Is it a 20%? Is it 25? What is that best kind of spot in regards to where to set the indicator? And looking at kind of how we've grown remote supports, over the last several years, going to 15%, if we forecasted it out, is pushing us beyond kind of what we've grown to at this point. And so we were trying to find what is that right spot where it's pushing us, but it's not, pushing too far, if that's the right way to say it. And so we did land on 15%. But I don't see, and I'll look to Steve. I don't think that we want to make 15%. And if we make 15%, let's have a conversation if we need to go farther than that, and what our next steps would be. And I think the second part of your question was, Renee, is do we have the funds? Maybe if I understand it right, do we have the funds to, if it goes beyond 15, are we able to financially support it to be bigger than that? And hopefully I'll look to Steve for that one.
Yeah, I think the answer would be yes to both of those. I mean, hopefully we're we're doing a good job of tracking this along the way and be able to make adjustments to it as, if we see the forecasting jumping higher than that, to be able to see what adjustments need to be made both to the goal and to the support structure around it. So, and that's part of the reasoning for putting some of these indicators in here, is to set some benchmarks so that we are consistently tracking them and then being able to respond to the information that we're getting out of these indicators. So, I mean, it's a goal, it's something we strive towards, but it's also a way for us to be held accountable and if things are going better than what we expect, then to adjust and make accommodations to both the indicator and the supports that are needed around it. So, if we go above 15%, we'll be so happy, and I think happy to make those adjustments. But like Stacy said, we wanted to try to make something that's realistic, but also pushes us a little bit based on the numbers that we have right now.
Thank you. Gary has his hand up.
Yeah, I really want to echo what Nate said. Training for our SSAs who either don't know how to access the system, don't know what technology, and I agree with you, Stacy, I don't think they have to know what technology, but there are still local historical policies that are taking precedent to what we're pushing on a state level. I mentioned last year, I don't know if it's been done yet, we don't see the resistance to technology from individuals with disabilities. It's primarily from older parents. And my suggestion last year was to have some older parents or parents, Kim, my age and Kim's. I don't think we're older, but it's our age and older who are not relating to people with disabilities. They want to relate to other parents who believe, and it follows up, the messaging is not right. I know we have a workforce crisis, but the older parents are seeing this as the way the system's replacing a body that they believe historically their son or daughter needs with a piece of technology. And yes, that might be it, but the marketing is not good on a local level. It's more, you will use technology, and it needs a softer hand than that. I see Nate's head. It's just, with my generation and older, we don't feel comfortable with it because it's just different. And I think if we had some older parents as tech ambassadors, and I don't believe that they would even require being paid, they would be fine with just being able to be an ambassador. They wouldn't necessarily need to be paid, but people my age and Kim's age, and even if it was Kim and I just saying, come on, let's do this.
Can I add to that?
Please.
Yes, Gary, I am older than you.
A month, maybe.
I just turned 67.
Oh boy, a year and a month.
And I have to say that my son cannot and will never be part of the technology initiative because he simply can't. I mean, he doesn't speak. There's just nothing he can use. But I no longer own a cell phone. So for being my age and having to learn new technology or to be able to understand what is available via technology is very confusing, very difficult to wrap my head around and understand how it works. And if something goes wrong with the device while I have it, somebody better be at hand to come in here and fix it, because there's no way on God's green, I can't even work the cable. And it's not because I'm stupid. It's just because I can't do math and I can't do technology, but I can do a whole lot of other things, So
I haven't figured out DVDs yet.
Oh, I got those. But I'm agreeing with Gary that you have to understand that there are different, just like there are very diverse disabilities, there are very diverse ages of people who are going to be using this technology, and we need to talk to all of them at a level that they can comprehend and understand.
Gary and Kim, thank you so much. Absolutely appreciate the feedback. Sorry. I don't
Can
think.
I add just can I ask one more thing? The other confusion that SSAs have is the complication of the Medicaid state plan services cover some technology for children that it does not cover for adults. The problem, though, is that no one is providing iPads for children that can be billed either to Medicaid state plan or the managed care companies. So SSAs are caught in this circle. This 14-year-old needs to communicate with an iPad, but he can't get it through his Medicaid in School program for whatever reason, and we can't find a Medicaid provider that will pay for it. So a lot of very well-meaning, informed SSAs are having challenges with technology for children. And just a point.
We will definitely dig into that. And just to get back really quick, I'll hurry about the comment in regards to family outreach. So after the last meeting I attended with you guys, Gary, where you brought up the need for a family tech ambassador, just as an update, we did amend the contract with Southern Ohio Council of Government to include more tech ambassadors, and they were able to, in regards to their capacity, to add a family tech ambassador in this coming up year, fiscal year 23. And so they're currently recruiting. They are looking for, multiple people. They've been having difficulties finding family tech ambassadors. So just a quick shout out, if anybody knows of anybody who would want to take on that role, have the ability to, they see the possibilities with technology and would be able to communicate and talk with families and really make that connection, please let me know or reach out to George Myers at SOCOG. We'd really appreciate that. So thanks, Gary. And then I'll dig into this managed care, Medicaid state plan versus waiver, and youth and adults and technology to see if we can start putting some stuff together to help SSAs.
One post on our Facebook page, which reaches 30,000 homes, you will get someone immediately. But we've not been contacted to help out. So anything we can do.
I will make a virtual connection between you, email connection between you and George. Thank you.
Yeah, I can follow up too, Gary, if it would be helpful at all.
Thank you, Nate. And Jackie, you're muted. There you go.
Sorry. Pete had his hand up and now I see it's down. So I don't know if his point was covered or if he still wanted to jump into the conversation.
I'm good, thank you. I'll talk about it another time.
Okay, and then Kim?
Yeah, I just had a couple of quick things. So in the past, families have been very resistant to even exploring technology because their big fear is if they do this and it's determined that the person that they are representing is capable of using a specific piece of technology, but the family chooses not to, that they're going to be forced into it by the SSA or by their county board or suffer consequences. And we do know that families, not all families, have great working relationships with their SSAs. And these are the families that are particularly concerned about it being, something that they're forced into. The other thing is there going to be any cost to the consumer if they utilize this technology?
So Kim, thanks for the feedback in regards to how families are feeling, being concerned about being forced into it, suffering consequences if they choose not to. We'll definitely, make sure that as we're having conversations with teams and supporting county boards, we're talking about, how to have those conversations. And, with technology first, it is exploring what's possible, but we know it's not going to work for 100% of people or be what 100% of people want. In regards to the second piece of that, I wanted to say something and now I forgot the second piece. I'm blanking out. There was something I wanted to respond with, Kim.
About if there is a cost to the consumer.
Yes. So there we go. So thank you. So when it comes to technology and our conversations around technology, there are multiple different types of technology, right? So not all somebody choosing a technology solution may not necessarily be a waiver service. And so I'll get you guys the information on the supportive technology course. It talks about multiple different levels, and technology could be how are you using your phone to support you in what you need during the day, and that could be considered technology. It's not going to show up in our indicators, right? But it is what we would call kind of off-the-shelf technology that you're going to use on your everyday, that you'd find at the store, that you would purchase. It's a lower cost. Somebody may be able to do that. If they aren't, how does it then play into these multiple different levels of ways Medicaid could pay for it? So just wanted to respond. There could be multiple different ways people are getting technology, and ways that families are getting technology, whether it's waiver or non-waiver. And so we can continue to support that, Kim, in that conversation. But we've attempted to start it through that supportive technology course. And we'll share components of that with families as well. And sorry you had to repeat yourself, Kim. I do apologize.
Yeah, I changed my mind. I think the technology piece with the fear, because there's fear and hesitation on all sides. This is an area where I think if we set up regional technology proving grounds, we could troubleshoot with SSAs on how, what to look for, how to have conversations. We could build a coalition of families and providers who are using technology that we can share across the state. Because I think there's still so much education that goes around this that I would really want to advocate for some, like I said, maybe 6 counties across the state regionally that will commit to, being technology counties that we can learn from and grow from and build those networks to cut down on the fear.
Thank you, Pete.
I'll just add, I think many of our county boards are doing some of that. And of course, I'm not going to remember now that I've opened my mouth, which counties that we have visited lately, but Jeremiah and I were one that just opened an apartment. There was also a mobile tech room that one of the counties opened that can come to you. The apartment was really cool because you could spend the night there and test out different things. There are obviously rooms, different places where you can go in and just see it, not actually try it out, but at least become familiar. So I think in a lot of our counties, county boards are spending some resources to have some technology available for folks to check it out. And we could certainly share some of those resources with everybody, I think.
Yeah, and that's my point, is the sharing of the successes, the challenges, in an organized and intentional way, I guess is what I was getting at.
Yeah, that's what we do as tech ambassadors. That's our whole job, is to do that. Is it not getting out there, Pete? I mean, are we not being utilized the way we should be utilized?
Thank you, Renee. That's helpful. Thank you.
Anyone else, or we'll go on to our next agenda item. And as Stacy and Nick shared, we will follow up and make sure everyone has a copy of the draft report. All right, thank you guys very much, and thank you for a good conversation, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Jeremiah is going to bring us the latest information on the public service announcement and campaign.
Thanks, Jackie. Hey, everyone. Just a quick update. I think the last time we talked, we were preparing to tape the ad and work on some of the materials that will accompany it. Since then, Nate was in the commercial, so we did the shoot, and he was with an actor that played a DSP. And then also in that shoot was a person who would be helping out in the aging space, so an elderly Ohioan, and then somebody in the mental health space. And so that'll be what the 30-second ad is. Last week, we got to see a preview of that ad and provided some feedback to the vendor, and so they're making some adjustments and sending us some more materials to review. I believe I shared last time that we were thinking June for having the ad out there and on the airwaves. We haven't have an updated timeline, but I will say we don't have a final video yet, so whether that spills into later this month or into July, I don't know definitively, but we are still having dialogue on what that final ad looks like. And then just to reiterate, we will be directing people to Ohio Means Jobs. There will be a specific landing page for direct care jobs. And so we will, as we have more details, which I don't have today, but we will have some of those job aids to make sure that people are posting there. But if you're posting your jobs there today, there should be nothing that you need to change. But we do want to have a landing page where, whether you're seeing something on a billboard or a radio ad or a 30-second spot, there's only so much information or emotion that you can convey there. So we do want to have that landing page have a little bit more substance that can drive to content that's specific to the DSP position. So if there's movement here before we meet next, we'll be sure to outreach through email, and if there are materials that we can share beforehand, we'll certainly do that. That is my update. Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you. Our next update is from Deborah Hoffine.
Good afternoon. My standard update is we are making progress on the RFP for our waiver reimbursement system modernization project. I believe I mentioned the last time we met that due to the size, the large scope of the project, and the fact that the work will run into the next biennium, we have to utilize the Department of Administrative Services. So DAS is the only agency in Ohio that can basically go into a contract that's going to cross over into a new biennium. So we've been working really closely with them. We have made a whole lot of progress. Just had a couple, I hope, final emails today, a couple little clarifying questions they had. So I still don't have a time frame exactly of when it's going to get posted, but it should be soon. And our plan is still to, once it's posted, leave it posted for 8 weeks. When it's posted, within the first 2 weeks of it being available, we will have they're called bidders conferences, but we'll have an opportunity for the entities that are interested in the project to actually ask us any specific questions that they might have after they've reviewed the RFP, and they want to if they have questions, to get a better sense of what it is we need, so that they can refine their bids. And that way, hopefully, it's helpful to both sides. It's helpful to the bidders so that they know what we're looking for, and it's helpful to us that we have had the opportunity to explain, and not just in paper, what it is we're searching, what it is we need, what we're looking for. And then we'll get the bids in, we'll get them reviewed, and we'll get things underway. But I do expect it should be posted relatively soon. And as soon as it is, I'll let everybody know. Or I'll let Jackie know, and she'll let everybody know. Thank you.
Thanks, Deborah. Steve, you were going to bring us up to date on the DSP RFP.
Thanks, Jackie. Do have a couple updates on the RFP process for the 2 that were out. Those closed on Monday, I believe. We received 10 scoreable proposals for the DSP Vision grant, and we received 2 proposals for the training contracts. So we just received those within the last day or 2. We are planning on scoring them next week and plan to have results out to awardees by the 20th, so the Monday of the following week. That's our plan right now. We haven't gone through them at all yet. I don't even know who applied and who didn't yet. So we'll get to all of that next week, get them scored, and get awardees their notifications the week following. The other piece I wanted to mention, and I know Jackie's going to do a recap at the end on our schedule going forward, because we're kind of moving to these quarterly meetings for the task force. A proposal was made to have some more input from direct support professionals directly to this task force. And so we'll be putting out a small RFP for somebody to kind of logistically maneuver and kind of put together some DSP feedback sessions. We're kind of calling them roundtables is the idea right now. And then also collect some data from direct support professionals to better inform the work of this task force. We're still in the early stages of kind of putting that together. And the thought would be that work wouldn't start until next fiscal year anyway. But wanted to put that on everybody's radar, and we'll keep you informed on that, just like we have with the DSP RFPs going forward as well. So those are my updates on that front. I'll take any questions that folks have or turn it back over to Jackie.
Any questions? Kim has her hand up. Kim?
Can you kind of give us an idea of what has been submitted so far? I mean, I know you can't get into particulars, but I mean, what specifically are the RFPs speaking about? I mean, I know it's DSP, but do they have, I mean, do you have any idea of what they're planning or what they propose?
We will next week when we score them. We just got the numbers from both the fiscal team and everybody, like I said, within the last day or two. So no, we have not reviewed them to know what the contents of them are yet. We will do that obviously before we score them next week, but we just haven't had time to yet.
So after you do that, Steve, can you just like give us an idea, have somebody send out something about what the content is? I mean, I don't want specifics and I don't really want to comment on it. I just kind of want an idea of what people are thinking.
Yeah, I mean, we can look into that. I mean, we will let the awardees know on the 20th, and I'm sure we will let everybody know, including folks in this group, through either press releases or other communication, specifically what they're going to be working on. So we definitely want to, advertise the good work that folks are doing. We just need to get through the scoring process and awarding process first.
Yeah, because my main concern with this DSP crisis is, I think technology is a good move. I think that there's a lot of people out there that can utilize that and in lieu of a direct support professional. But at the same time, I'm hearing quite a number of people about those who cannot or will never use technology, and they want to know what is being done to recruit and grow their ability to get out of bed and have a meal and get bathed. I mean, these are the people that we really have to target because they are suffering the most. And especially if they don't have a family member or any natural supports that they can call upon. And so that's my concern, is that what we're working on is not only the technology piece for those that can utilize it, but for those who can't and don't have help.
Yeah, I understand that completely. And this RFP had technology as a piece of something that folks could choose from as part of their proposals, but it was not a required piece. And so we did give a few prompts and a few topics for folks to choose from that they could submit proposals on, and they could choose from multiple of the topics if they felt it was within their scope of expertise. Again, technology was one of those options, but it by no means was the only option and was not a requirement within the RFP itself. So we hope to see a lot of varied and creative ideas on recruiting and retention of all sorts.
Steve, if I can real quick, I would just like to say that I think the increase in technology does not just benefit the people that are going to be receiving technology, right? I think, like I said, if we start to think about our most precious resource being the amount of hours that we have DSPs available to provide resources or to provide services. I'm sorry. If there are people that were previously using DSPs that maybe now can utilize technology, even for part of that, I think that kind of reallocates, maybe some hours. So I don't think that the increase of the utilization of technology is just for those that will then use it. I think it benefits, everybody involved. Sorry.
Thank you. All right, general updates. Steve, I think you were going to go first with one.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot. Should have just rolled right into it. So I think everybody on this group got an email last week around a workforce task force that is organized by the governor's office and the administration that is across multiple agencies, departments within the state. And part of that communication that went out this past week was around a survey that could be completed by stakeholders to kind of guide I guess you would say, the path or the journey that this task force will go down. This is essentially a continuation of the work that Director Davis did last year. He and other state agency directors had met specifically in the HHS arena to talk through workforce issues and start this dialogue. And this is just kind of taking it to the next level. We are asking for your input, for any stakeholders' input on, I think there's 5 topics within that survey for folks to respond to. And then the purpose of the survey, again, is to guide what the rest of the task force looks like. We will take everybody's comments into consideration, figure out where folks' interests and concerns and solutions lie. And then part of the charge of the task force will be to bring in subject matter experts on those various topics to better inform them. We will have public comments. We will have public meetings, testimony. But I do believe, and this isn't completely set in stone yet, but this will move rather quickly as well. I know the governor's office is really wanting to see some feedback and some support from this task force to develop. I don't know if it'll be a report or something that comes out of it to better inform the entire crisis that's going on and some of the solutions. You'll also see in that communication that went out that there is an acknowledgement, obviously, wages, rates, all those things are very important and come into play when we're talking about workforce issues. We want the other ideas as well. We want to know what are those other things that can be done systematically, policy-wise, rules, regs, those kind of things that can help also support a more robust workforce across our system. So that's kind of the cliff notes of it. I guess I should say as well that it's not replacing this task force. You all are stuck with us for a little longer. But I do, think that the work that we do here will inform the administration's task force as well. So again, I'll pause here and take any questions that folks might have.
Steve, we have 2 hands up, but just real quickly, is that survey link something that we can resend everyone just in case it missed their attention earlier?
Yep,
Okay.
Absolutely. I can get that to you, Jackie, to send out with the meeting notes.
Will do. And then Nate had his hand up, and then Renee.
We may be getting at similar points, and if we do, I apologize in advance. But my 2 questions are: does DODD know who's going to represent the agency on this task force? And secondly, are there plans to incorporate people who receive support as active members on the task force?
So this task force specifically will be state agency representatives, and so it'll be a rep from from us, from Job and Family Services, from Aging, from Mental Health, anybody that has a hand in the task force, or I'm sorry, in the direct care crisis. I'll be the representative from DODD that will serve on it. To your second question, it's going to be open to anybody who wants to provide comment, testimony. Like I said, the meetings will be open to the public for people to access and view. So yes, and also and this is why it's important for us to get good information through the survey. The information we gather from the survey will inform kind of what groups we reach out to for SME, either testimony or specific research and things like that. So again, the survey is important for our folks or our stakeholders to fill out and let us know, as a complete administration, not just DODD, where the importance lies for our system.
Steve, I have a third question. So when I took the survey, it took me about an hour to fill out, and I'm just thinking that it's not going to be accessible to a lot of people. And I'm wondering if the department has some sort of a plan or a strategy to work with some external stakeholders and maybe hold roundtables about, the survey and do it in different formats, maybe a discussion or maybe some other way to just get some more input and some different perspectives.
Yeah, we can definitely touch base, offline about that. JFS is the lead agency on this, and so it would be kind of working through us to work with JFS to figure out how to gather those responses. But yeah, we can definitely talk about that.
Renee?
I'm gonna try to be very calm about this, but we've been talking about this as the chapter. But I understand that this is going to be by departments and people will get to put their input. However, Steve, if I'm not wrong, you are a parent of a child with a disability, correct?
Yeah.
There are many parents that work for departments. There is nobody that I know of with a disability that works inside state department. This is a real issue because we as parents are at the table just by way of being employees in the state department. People with DD are only surveyed. We're only asked for our opinion. We're not in there working on it like you guys. I'm trying to be very calm, but this is coming to a point where it's just not right. We need, even though we don't work at the State Department, we need a seat at that table.
Yeah, Renee, I couldn't agree more. And I think all I can say on that topic right now is we are working on that, and it is something that we do want to see and are making steps to accomplish. So, so hopefully we can talk more about that here shortly in the future about what that looks like and what that role is. But yes, we're working on that.
You're working on getting an actual seat at the table along with the departments. Is that my understanding?
We're working on we have a position created at the department to have somebody come into the role that I guess you could say kind of mirrors the role that Corey plays for families in organizing and communication, outreach, advocacy within the department. So we're creating a similar role for somebody with a disability.
Okay, I get that. But we're not going to get a seat at this table. Correct?
I see what you're asking. So at this, yeah, so it's just state agency representatives at this table at this point in time.
Right.
And so Renee, I hear what you're saying, and it once we bring someone on at the department, then we will have more flexibility to have that person be a part of some of these meetings as well.
So this is Kim Kelly. The problem is that because disabilities are so diverse, you can't just have one person at the table with a disability, because that person knows their disability, what they need, and what they represent. When you have other people who are, and I don't mean to be disrespectful or anything, but there's low functioning and there's high functioning individuals. My son is completely low functioning. He has never had a voice at the table until 8 years ago when I wiggled my way into these meetings and committee work groups and whatever. And Renee says she's trying to be calm. I'm trying to be calm too, because we are at the point now where it's nothing about us without us. The rules and everything should be decided with people who are living the life, not just the people who are being paid to sit in a position of administration to decide the rules. They need, and surveys don't work. And us sitting at the table just to be the token person is not acceptable anymore. Life has changed for us. Life has changed for people with disabilities. We are all trying to live in the community. We are all trying to support ourselves through state-funded services, through employment, through technology, through whatever means we can to live our lives independent of somebody pulling our strings. We are nothing but puppets right now, and we're tired of it, and we don't want it anymore. And so there is a push right now and I won't mention who the two organizations are that are going to be sending a letter or contacting the governor's office as well as JFS to ensure that this task force that you are speaking about is going to have fair representation with respected voices of people with disabilities, providers, family members that represent a diverse population of people with disabilities. And I think that's only fair. I mean, we're not making any headway otherwise. And I've been doing this. I've been an advocate for 30 years, and I've seen how things have changed. And I know the history, and I know where we're headed. And it's not going to work for us unless we can have a voice and let you all know what is working, what isn't working, and how we need to have things going forward. Am I wrong, Renee?
One thing to seek our opinion is another thing for us to actually be at the working table and working on it alongside everybody else. It's a different concept. It's not the same to just seek our opinion. We need to be working on it alongside you guys.
All right, thank you. Thank you for voicing your opinions. Clay, I think you were going to give us an update as well.
Sure. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I think you can. I just do a real fast update on the status of the plan I think Lori talked about last time that was presented to us from the boards and the provider associations around the retention supplemental payments. And as of right now, the concept has been submitted to CMS for approval through an Appendix K authority has not been approved yet. We have received a few questions, minor questions that actually had nothing to do with the proposal. So we're optimistic that we at least know they're reviewing it, and we have no reason to believe that they won't approve it. So we also have been working with some of the providers and that are part of our group, as well as others that have volunteered to test out a template just to kind of get questions out there ahead of time, so we can help once this does get approved and we start to roll it out, that we can be ahead of the game, I hope, in terms of the type of questions and the type of things that we know will come up. And we're also working internally with our IT folks and others to be prepared for what we hope is a eventual approval and be ready to roll as quickly as we can. So things are moving. You know, obviously we'll have more details as we get approval and as we roll the stuff out in terms of timelines and all the basic things that people want to know. But I mean, that's really the big update on that. So we're still moving forward and hope to hear something from CMS soon.
Thank you, Clay. Does anyone else have a general update that we need to share with the group? Okay, hearing none, our next meeting as we transition to a quarterly meeting will be on October 12th from 1 to 2:30. In the meantime, if there are any materials, some were alluded to today, and I'm sure others will emerge, we'll make sure that not only are they posted, but they are distributed in a timely manner so that everyone here stays informed. Let me turn the meeting back over to Kim for any final remarks.
I just want to thank everyone for being here and sharing your opinions and thoughts with us. I just want you to know that, you know, we listen to all of them, and we really are trying to make some changes in the department, not only with who we're hiring, but also having committees like these where we hope that, you know, you feel your representation and your voice is heard. So I just want to say that. And then, you know, thanks, Jackie, for keeping us on track this afternoon. And I will see you all soon. Everyone take care.